Good afternoon, everybody. This is Troy Eckert with Eckert Global. I'm talking to the partners that will join me in the drilling of the Cholpe well sometime in the next 30 to 45 days. As you all know, I probably have sent out correspondence last week talking about the fact that there was a ingress easement issue that was delaying the possibility of spudding the well. I talked earlier this morning with our operator, which is Pennington Oil and Gas, very sophisticated, old school exploration company that not only agreed to operate the well, but they took a nice chunk of the working interest. So I like people joining us that are going to put their own money in. In talking to Mr. Heiss over at Pennington, he basically said it was a difficult ingress issue, that he joined and helped Magna in getting the ingress worked out. They're very excited about the potential of the Cholpe well. They normally take very limited outside interest. They normally drill their own prospects. They drill because they are from formerly Exxon, Chevron, Amoco. They are a prospect generation shop. The reason I'm pointing all this out is that although we're having to be a little more patient on the Cholpe, I want you to understand we took the last 5% interest available, and of that 5%, it's mostly oil companies, engineers, and geologists that are participating with us, and they really like this prospect. So I'm going to go through and just give you a recap of what we're going to do in the Cholpe. I'm going to let you know about what I think the timing is going to be. Hopefully this will all fall in place with regard to what my expectations are over the next 60 to 90 days. And we have an incredibly good well with a lot of reserves turned on to sale sometime in the first or second month of 2017. So the first thing I'll do is I'll tell you that, remember, we consider this to be a low-risk, proved undeveloped location. One of the key things for me when I'm looking at a prospect is has that reservoir that they're targeting, that the geologist or geophysicist is targeting, have they ever found oil and gas in that reservoir before? Not that you have to have that, but it's one more check in the box that says it's a lot lower risk. In this case, we definitely have down-dip pay in the Cholpe. It's stacked pay with multiple pay zones. So we have a lot of reserves, several pay zones, reservoir that's already been produced. We know it's there. It's just a matter of quantity. And I think that's what everybody came to the conclusion. That's why I had to jump so quick to get the last 5%, because there was 10. Time I made my mind up, in about 12 hours, it's down to 5. Okay, let's see here. I'm going to cheat. Okay, so just to remind you, Pennington Exploration or Energy will be doing the operations for us. It's going to be a 9,690-foot well, slight directional. The reason why we're drilling it directional is when we come through the first zone, we want to kick just a little bit to pick up, kind of like threading a needle, and get both the two main zones that are in this geological feature. So one of the nice things about horizontal drilling and directional drilling becoming so easy to utilize the last 20 years is they can do things just like this. They can look at stacked pay that are not directly on top of one another, and they can thread that needle to make sure that they get into as many formations as possible. In this case, we've got 8 zones of potential. I love 8 zones of potential. It gives me a lot of opportunity in case the geologist is wrong in the primary zone. 3D seismic is available. It's stacked pay. It's Frio sands. Let me tell you why I like Frio sands. Frio is just like it sounds, river. It used to be a riverbed. It's high porosity sand. It's very easy to interpret off of seismic. Frio sands, I've made dozens and dozens of successful wells in the Frio. They're nice little balloons of reservoir. So when you drill it and you perforate it, it'll free flow. You don't have to frack them or stimulate them. It'll produce, 3, 4, 5 years. You go to the next zone. It'll produce 4, 5, 6 years. You go to the next zone. I've had some of my wells last over 20 years in multiple pay zones. It's a great way to make money. Okay. The prospect sits on what they call a 4-way closure, meaning it has 4-way draping trapping. The way I used to give this analogy so you understand is like taking a basketball that's full of air, and the air is the oil and gas you're looking for in my analogy, and draping a blanket over the top of the ball. Everywhere the blanket drapes is a seal or a closure. Sometimes you have a 3-way closure where it's up against the fault. You have a chance the fault can leak. When you have a 4-way closure, you're essentially saying whatever's trapped under that blanket, in this case the basketball, it's there. It's just a question, is it a basketball or a ping pong ball? It's size. We already know the zones that produce. We know there's hydrocarbons in place. If this mapping is right, we've got a big reserve, 3.6 million barrels of potential in a little bitty well that's fairly inexpensive to drill. Now, let me show you what we're trying to do here. This is a pre-existing log that shows you what the sands look like. So each one of these lines represent a characteristic: porosity, permeability, sand. When I'm in the logging truck, which I want you guys to come down with me if you want to when we log this well, I want you to come out there, because what I want to see is this log's being pulled up out of the hole. It's sending back gamma readings all the way to the surface inside this Schlumberger logging truck. And what I want to see is a big kick. I want to see this sand kick out, which means it's sand, it's present. I want to see that we're not sitting on top of water. Water is usually where you get a separation from this line to this line. I want to see those lines riding real close to one another. In this case, I want to make sure those lines are tight, and I want to make sure that I've got a nice response. So one of the things they look for is they look at existing wells that have already been successful. They correlate that to seismic, where they find, here's a sand, it looks like a sand. Here's a feature, looks like, oops, that's a new sand we haven't seen. Here's a big fat sand, here's another sand. So in this case, what we're going to do is drill the well. We'll string our wellbore to connect through more than one pay zone, in this case 8 zones of potential. And if we find these big fat sands, you and I are going to be smiling, eating chocolate donuts outside the trailer, celebrating a very, very successful well. By the way, that is my characteristic, and that is one of my trademarks. I got to have a chocolate donut right after I log a very successful well. Okay, this is what it looks like if you're looking from the surface. The other one was a cross section. This is the top of it. What it means is we've got 2 big bumps sitting inside of one 4-way closure. This is the basketball. Everything around it has been draped over the top of it. So they use offsetting well logs. They use topographic maps. They try to come in here and they try to use the different differentials in height and structure and subsea. And what they've decided and what they've mapped out on seismic and subsurface is we got a big feature in here that's never been tapped. It's got a lot of reserves. Only one well is produced off of it. So it's a closed-in structure. We got proof, we got hydrocarbons, we got closure, and we got a lot of size. 3.6 million barrels at today's prices would be a whole lot of money for all of us. Okay, to tell you why they're also very confident and why I'm also confident. By the way, you've already bought, so you've jumped out of the airplane. It's too late to ask for a parachute, but I'm just giving you a basic summary of what we're going to do here. The fact is there's other fields that have easily produced this type of production. The difference between these fields and what we're having in the Cholpe, it's very hard to find a 4-way closure. When you do, you get multiple sands that are trapped and compacted, so that's why you get high density, multiple pay zones, which can really take these numbers and multiply them times 3 and 4 because it's all trapped in one feature. This is one of my most favorite types of structural features is a 4-way closure. Okay? So at the end of the deal, we're going to do this. Pennington, I talked to Richard Heiss. He's the CEO of Pennington this morning. He said they're working out the final ingress issues. He's already got the turnkey contractor and bid. We look to spud this well hopefully the 2nd or 3rd week of December. It could be delayed by 30 days. The main thing I'm pushing for is that it gets spud prior to March 15th so we get our tax deductions. I don't mind drilling because I want to make money, but I could use a little tax deductions to help. There's no more interest left. You made a great decision on the prospect, and I'll just remind you, some of the best minds out there right now are 60, 70 years old geologists generating prospects like this. And what's very comforting to me is see the number of oil and gas experts that are also participating side by side. Because if I'm a guy selling snow cones, I don't typically walk next door and buy the other guy's snow cone. I'm trying to sell it to customers. When you start seeing one oil prospect generator buying another oil prospect generator's idea, it's telling you it's got to be really good because I just drilled my own prospect if I wanted to go spend money. When they start exchanging ideas, it's where the industry really finds the greatest number of barrels of oil and MCF of gas because only the very best prospects are being proposed. I just picked up some interest this morning on another prospect called the North Martha prospect. We're going to offer that on a first right of refusal to the Cholpe clients. So there was 5% in Cholpe. There'll be 5% set aside for you Cholpe partners in the North Martha prospect. Then for those of you that are involved in our Tyne prospect, we'll give them first right of refusal in order because I believe the 10% we have in North Martha will be gone immediately, first right of refusal. And what I want to do is give those of you who are building a portfolio like I am first crack because I want partners that are looking at buying in 5, 10, 15 wells over the next 12 months of the high quality like we're seeing in the Cholpe. Anyway, you guys have a great weekend. It's Friday night. I'm going to go get myself a cold beer, enjoy my kids this weekend, and start thinking about the money we're going to make on the Cholpe prospect. I'll see you later. Thanks again.